Welcome everybody to House of Fame and Humanizing the Icons event. I'm so excited to have all of you here today. It's such a special day because today we're talking about the behind the scenes filmmaking of Why Not Choose Love, a Mary Pickford Manifesto. Mary Pickford is such a special story. I'm actually gonna let the director talk about that in a little bit, but first I just wanted to introduce everybody on the panel. So I'm gonna start with the producers. Our first producer is Martine. Can you talk a little bit, can you just introduce yourself, Martine, and tell us your role? Let me unmute you.
Should we unmute everyone or no?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so we can just, people can talk freely.
Okay. I actually don't have the control to unmute her. Martine, can you unmute? Okay, great.
Todd can unmute, Alex can unmute, then we can be more freeform if you want. Okay.
So my name is Martine Melloul. I'm a producer. I have a company called Kelly Pictures. I came onto the project towards the end, about a year and a half ago, when the film was in post. And I loved the team, I loved the film, and they accepted me into the team to help them with distribution and business related paperwork and stuff like that. So I'm more of a business producer than a creative producer.
And when you say the end, you really mean after we shot the film?
After you shot the film.
Still kind of the beginning.
It was still in post. It's still in post.
It's still in post, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, and the other main producer is Nitsa, and she's coming live from Paris, correct?
Yeah.
Paris? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah. I arrived on the project in 2015, and Jen had already started working on it for a number of years. But it was at the writing stages, so I was there from the very beginning till the finish line. And before that, Jen and I knew each other about 10 years prior to that, and we had already been working together on a different level, both in production and finance. And so we decided to embark, and when she told me about the story and about the project and about Mary Pickford's story that I barely knew, I thought, wow, that's a story to be told, and I think it's important in our era. So I immediately jumped on it.
Awesome. Okay, and next I'm going to introduce, I see her on the screen, Adrienne, and she was the casting director and also a co-producer.
Co-executive producer.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, everybody. I'm Adrienne Stern. I'm a longtime casting director, and I've been on this project from the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I think I was meant to be a part of this project because I had actually been on another Mary Pickford film prior to this, and I was very disappointed when it had fallen apart. It was a whole different team, and I just by chance, this film came my way. Maybe a little later in the day I'll tell the story how I met Jen and got involved in the project, but I've seen it from the very beginning through where we are today, and I'm excited to talk about it. And I had two hats I wore. Yes, I am a casting director, but I also get involved in financing, and I know that through relationships I had, I was able to bring a good part of the financing to our project, which obviously enabled us to be here today.
Great. And the film obviously wouldn't be possible without the backing. So I'm going to introduce the people that made that happen. The first one is the primary executive producer, and that is Alex. Alex, can we see you?
I'm here.
Alexander Falk. Yes.
Yes, I'm here and I'm muted. We're all good to go. Yeah, I've been very happily involved in this project since the very, very, very early days of November 2013. That's when we initially signed our development agreement, and got the whole manuscript development started. Right, it's been that long ago. And it's been just an amazing journey to watch this project progress. And my personal background is in software. I run a software company, and also dabble in various forms of angel investments. And this is my first movie investment project together with my wife Nora, who's somewhere here on the call too, but not on the screen. So thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for being part of this. And then we also have the associate producer, Todd Bird.
Hello.
Hi, Todd.
Hi. I'm Todd Bird. I'm the associate producer, as Denise mentioned. I'd known Jen for quite a while before getting involved. And I lived half of my life in Canada. So when I found out that she was working on a Mary Pickford film, I definitely was interested in that. And I pitched in financially, when I was asked. And I'm really excited to sort of follow this entire journey and the wonderful work that Jen has done on it.
Fantastic. And then the woman behind it all, Jennifer DeLia, who directed, produced, wrote the film, and is just so hands-on with every piece. She's so dynamic and amazing. Jen?
Thank you. I mean, you said it all. Yeah, I did write it and direct it and produce it with the team. It's been a passion project and a real undertaking. And I'm really honored, Denise, that you wanted to go deeper into the making of this film, and very humbled by the team that's present today, because we have not all been together on a panel before, actually. And this is like a pivotal moment, really, in our journey. So thank you. And thanks to everyone who's contributed to this process. And I'll lastly introduce Celio Bordin, because he has been an asset to this journey as well, on the artistic side, and did a portrait of Mary Pickford that was exhibited last year at the tribute to her that we did with a Hollywood Women's event. And he also came to Italy with us and participated in the Humanizing the Icon exhibit during the Biennale. And now we have a talk show together called Humanizing the Icon. And Mary Pickford has been the portal into that theme of what is icon and what is to humanize. And he transforms the energy into perception art. And it's really powerful. And he's going to be doing his thing for us today. So we'll end up with a piece of art at the end of this conversation that represents all of our energy. Thank you, Celio. Do you want to
special piece of the whole puzzle here? Yeah,
Can we unmute you, Celio, if you want to say hi, or no? You don't have to. If he doesn't come back, he's just going to go to his art, and that's fine. he can talk at the end. Oh, he's fine. Yeah. So that's Celio. Okay.
Okay, fantastic. So House of Fame is about bringing together people that I really believe in and that are very successful in the creative world to talk about what goes on behind the scenes, the business aspect of it. So FAME stands for Fashion, Art, Music, and Entrepreneurship. And Humanizing the Icon is about the intersection between art and commerce. So there's so much synergy, and that's really why we wanted to put on this event together today. And we're going to start out by showing a clip from the film. This is also a webisode. It's the first webisode in a series, and Jen will talk about that in a little more when we get into the discussion. But for now, I want to give everybody a background. So the film isn't out yet. You're getting a special treat right now, being able to see a piece of that. So let me bring it up here.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and
Well, let me just bring up the volume a little bit.
mystery. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Revelation 17:3. What is Hollywood? Holly is derived from Old English, meaning to prick or to provoke, and looks like holy or whole. Wholeness is integration of masculine and feminine. Wood is earth, roots, mother. Storytelling is sacred, the most ancient form of passing along wisdom, where art and life blend as one and time does not exist, a universe of oneness, of wisdom, insight, reformation. As we are all storytellers, let's bow to the power of our own personal narratives and of the collective. Art is the heartbeat of humanity. United Artists was founded 100 years ago. Number 1 is a symbol of unity, and 0 is a symbol of eternity, but may also symbolize the beginning.
Everybody needs a little something and they to be independent. No independent person just grew up and was born independent. Work, you learn teamwork and you learn cooperation and unity and struggle, and then you became independent. Instead of us just being like slavery's bad, slavery's bad. You need to help Black kids, Mexican kids, Korean kids, whatever, but it needs to be real. Before we all die, and then you say, oh, I made a mistake. Everybody's smart enough to know that, I mean, we've been slacking.
I release control and surrender to the love that will heal me. I release control.
Do you realize that whatever is happening to you or to me at this very moment is absolutely the result of what each of us has been putting into our minds? You and I cannot possibly escape the result of our thoughts. So our concern is not really with external things at all, these being secondary, but with our thoughts. Let's go into the laboratory of our minds and see about all this. The first thing we find is, I am.
Are you an actress?
I most certainly am.
What experience have you had, if any?
12 years in the theater, and 2 under the Bishop of Broadway, Mr. David Belasco.
Oh, David Belasco. Well, you're a little too fat. But I may just introduce you to the camera. My name is Griffith. What's yours?
I was baptized Gladys Marie, but now my name is Mary Pickford, a name awarded to me by Mr. Belasco.
Well, there's no stage to flounce on here. We make motion pictures. Follow me. So we rehearse on Mondays and start shooting on Tuesdays. Mind your head.
Thank you, Fred. You know, when the light hits these backdrops, it's utter magic. These are some of my children. Please, have a seat.
So we got to see a little clip of the film. I hope it was okay. I heard that there was a little bit of delay in the film, but I hope you guys could see what I could see, which was really amazing. So basically the film isn't out yet. We got to see a little clip from it. And now we're gonna talk to each of the people that were behind the making of this film about the journey and the direction that it's going. So, Jennifer, can I start with you? Are you here? I think your picture's off. So, okay, well, maybe ran off for a second. So let's start with you, Alex. We talked extensively about your journey into helping with this film, and you're a first-time investor into any film. So what made you want to get involved with this story in particular?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with first of all having known Jennifer for a while. We were introduced through a mutual friend in New York City, even before 2013. And then when Nora and I heard that she had acquired the movie rights to the Mary Pickford story, we were immediately interested, right? It's such an important story in today's world. The story of the first major female force in the movie industry, really bringing together not just the creative side, but also the business side. And I think that's really all that matters here for our discussion today, especially as we look at the intersection between art and commerce. It's just such a fascinating, powerful tale. And I must admit that before we had talked to Jennifer about Mary Pickford, I had not known many of those background facts. I was not aware that she was one of the founders of United Artists. I was not aware of exactly her relationship to Douglas Fairbanks and Charlie Chaplin, right? And I had heard of her name, but didn't know any of the fascinating details. And the more we learned about the story, the more we wanted to help bring it to light, is really the way I would put it.
So we talked a little bit before this, and you mentioned that you do some investing for yourself. You have multiple different kinds of investments. But what made you think about doing something in film? Obviously, you have an attachment to the story, but for anybody else that's thinking about investing in film, what would be your feedback from?
I think film is a great diversifier for a portfolio, because it's highly uncorrelated to other assets. It doesn't move up and down in the same way that the stock market does, or that bonds do based on yield. So it's really a wonderful way to diversify the portfolio and to really take advantage of opportunities that are outside of what's typically available to retail investors. So I think it's just a fascinating area. Of course, it has the potential for high reward, but that comes, of course, also with the high risk factor, and that's fun in and of itself too.
So when someone's thinking about pursuing film as an investment, what part of their financial journey would you say that they should be at?
I think it's not so much the question of the financial journey where they're at. I think it's really important to think about investing in, if you're so willing, in three buckets, right? A safety bucket. This is what you need to be able to survive the next 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, whatever your time horizon of comfort is, that makes you sleep well at night. There's sort of a core investment bucket that is your typical stock and bond portfolio and maybe some real estate. And then there is what I would call an opportunistic investment bucket for things to play with, investing in startup companies, investing in exciting things, could be cryptocurrencies, could be the movie industry. And if you find an opportunity to participate in the film project, it just depends on the size of the project and the size of what you want to commit out of that opportunistic bucket. But it's definitely more likely that you will make a choice to invest in movies when you have already had some success as an entrepreneur or a successful artist or a successful investor. But it's definitely a fascinating area.
Yes, absolutely. So great. Todd, will you tell us a little bit about your participation in the film and how you came on as the associate producer?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, I've known Jennifer for a while before Mary Pickford was even started. And I had actually invested in a previous film that she made called Billy Bates. And it was a very artsy film. And it was my introduction to investing in the film industry. And it was really exciting, to be honest. Like, just obviously I figured I would never be in film because I'm not an actor or anything like that. So I thought, investing is a way into the film industry. And just sort of seeing what goes on behind the scenes. I got to watch a lot of the post-production stuff with the Billy Bates film. So it sort of intrigued me. And then when Mary Pickford came along, I was already sort of hooked. And a lot of what Alec had mentioned about having the three different buckets. Obviously the opportunistic bucket was at a certain level for me, and this sort of fell under that category as well. The fact that I actually didn't know anything about Mary Pickford prior to Jennifer, getting the script and talking about it. And then when I found out that, not only is she, Hollywood icon, but she's also Canadian. I wasn't born in Canada, but I lived half my life there. So I'm the kind of person that corrects everybody when they say that, an actor or a musician is American. And I tell them, actually, no, that musician is, Canadian. It sort of made sense, and I was really intrigued in the entire story. So that's why I got involved.
Yes, and so what I love about having both of you here is you both have such different backgrounds. Todd, you've been on the employee side most of your life and have just excelled in your career and been a good saver and a good steward of your money. And Alex has been an entrepreneur all his life. So just two different journeys, two different perspectives that are both so valuable. So Todd, you come from a financial background, actually. You're working with Bloomberg Financial, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I've worked as a software engineer and also technical support and programming support.
And then you also have a passion where you create music, right?
Yes, I'm also a songwriter. I have my own music publishing company called Double Treble. And I basically write songs, lyrics and music, get them demoed and pitch them to reputable artists and so forth. Also a lot of licensing opportunities for TV and film.
So it is, you really are that hybrid too, of you have the business side and then you also obviously have the very creative side. And how have bringing those two together, like having both of those experience sets, accelerated you in being able to have some of the success you had in your music career?
I don't think it's happened yet. Once the Mary Pickford film, gets out there, I think I'll start being able to take advantage of the synergy between the music industry and also, the film industry in my business and Jennifer's business as well. But I mean, obviously there's a lot of there's a huge connection between obviously the music industry and the film industry, and I think definitely it'll pay off down the road.
Oh, that's so interesting that you've become a participant in the making of this film as an avenue to help you in your music career. So very interesting. Jennifer, hi. So you're the woman behind the whole film, and I wanted to hear from you a little bit about just beginning to end. How did you start with this film? When did you start making it? And if you could just kind of give us an overview of the journey.
Sure. First, I just want to ask, what happened when I walked away? We shut off the episode, right? Because the tech was bad, I think.
Yes, we shut off the episode and then we started talking to Alex and Todd.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. Obviously, that's part of the process too. Is as a filmmaker, it's really hard to see content that has extremely high production value. With Zoom, it's a shared screen, and I appreciate that we tried. But people that want to check it out can be in touch and follow the course of the project. So thank you for stopping it, Denise. I appreciate it. Okay, so the journey is. Do you want a bird's eye view, or you have a specific jumping off point?
Just kind of an overarching, like, when did you start making the film? How long ago? How long has it taken you to make it? And then we talked a little bit about some of the crazy twists and turns and pivoting that it took to get it made. I think that's such an interesting journey that we'd all love to hear.
Sure. So I discovered Mary Pickford in 2011. As Todd mentioned, she's Canadian, and my first film was Billy Bates. And I was in Toronto doing post-production on Billy Bates, and landed in an art exhibit about Mary Pickford. I had a meeting about Billy Bates in the Lightbox, which is the Toronto Film Festival headquarters. And I was with my producing partner at the time, Julie. We had 5 minutes to kill waiting for a taxi staying out of the rain. And there was an exhibit called Silent Screen Legend, Mary Pickford. And I was just like, oh, let's go, check it out. Like, I didn't know who she was or even really care. I was just sort of killing time. And we walked in, and I literally grabbed her arm, my producer's arm, within 5 minutes, and said, we have to tell that story. I had this literal full body, almost like love at first sight. Who is this being? She radiated, and in the footage I was seeing of her, it was clear she founded so many initiatives and things, and I felt almost like a fraud. I mean, that's a bit dramatic, but I felt this almost guilt of why don't I know about her? How am I a legitimate filmmaker? And I did not know. And I likened it to being part of a religion and not knowing the roots. How are we all part of this culture and this Hollywood thing and content, and we don't even know that there's a mother kind of behind it all, And so I just had this visceral response. I clearly within 5 minutes still didn't know much about her, but again, it was very intuitive. And so that just kind of launched me into the rabbit hole, as I call it, of, finding the books and the historians and the who's connected to Mary, on the planet still around today. And she didn't die that long ago. She actually died the year I was born. So she passed away in 1979. And there's actually a lot of people on the planet that were friends with her or family or knew her. And I was inspired, really, really inspired. And I think that as a storyteller, which is how I identify, I think, beyond a filmmaker, is that it's a story that has to be told. It's almost like a live or die kind of mission. Like, I will do everything in my power to get this out and to do it with integrity on the creative side, so that the soul of her at that time and what it meant to be a visionary 100 years ago and to really precede Hollywood, to actually be the vehicle that birthed Hollywood. She was considered avant-garde, and she was considered wild, and she was a badass, you know. She negotiated her own contracts, and she earned more than her male counterparts in 1919. She founded the Academy. She founded United Artists. She got actors their names in the credits. And she was really an activist, and an advocate for artists, you know, to have safe places to go in Los Angeles, to have salaries in between jobs, to be able to push the medium and provoke audiences and not dumb things down, you know. So all these values and messages that I really already felt so strongly about as a young filmmaker and just young person. I felt like I had a role model and a kindred spirit, and like someone that I could understand, that could understand me, that I had not really met, you know, in my journey in the industries up to that point. So that was 2011, and I could go on forever, obviously, because it's been a long road. But basically, it took us about 4.5 years to actually go into physical production. I was still finishing my last film. I directed a play off Broadway. I was sort of multitasking for the first couple years of that. And we had big budgets, and we're exploring shooting in different territories based on tax incentives. And we had like a conventional biopic version of the story. And then you just kind of go through this development process that's like very layered, very, very layered, because I really am an artist. I really am a visionary. I don't perceive things in like a formulaic way. I see life as nonlinear. I'm very interested in psychology and memory and philosophy and mythology and things like that. So the conventional biopic version, while it's really beautiful, was not me, was not authentic. So I ended up a couple years after we started the process doing a page one, you know, rewrite of the script to really bring the vision, you know, into it. And that was what my partners at the time were encouraging. Like, don't dumb this down, you know, this has to be yours, you know. So I was really blessed with people around me that wanted my style, you know. And then to find out that my style and Mary Pickford's style actually really are aligned. And and then is the journey of financing. It's like, okay, well, who's going to invest in independent film, and who's going to invest in an unconventional telling of the story, and really support the vision and us as filmmakers. So it becomes a journey of finding the right fit and the right alignment there, you know, because we care about messaging. We care about the images we're putting out into the world and how it affects humanity. You know, money is not just something that we take for granted. You know, our team, like, we really made a conscious choice together to not take it for granted. Like, we did turn down money at times when we really needed it, because it's the energy of the person. You know, you really get married on a film. You know, you need to be able to go when there's trouble. You need to just have a certain vibe that's like supportive of the whole process. So we found our people for sure, but we had so many challenges along the way, and it took time. It really, really took time. And it's still taking time, you know, but you kind of discover with especially like auteur visions that it's kind of like wine. It gets better with time, you know? So we keep working on it. We keep refining it. We keep meeting potential distribution partners that share in the vision, you know? And it's like, you just kind of nurture the process rather than rush it because you believe in it, you know? So Actually, Alex had been, you know, he was our foundation. I mean, he was our lead executive producer. And when we were in need, we would go to him, you know, and he was really, I thought, great at this sort of balance of, okay, yeah, I'm here for you. And then sometimes you got this, you got to go figure this out, you know, like it's that dance. And I really respect that a lot. And then Todd, like, literally came in at a moment when we were shooting the film, and I would love even Nitsa to unmute and be able to jump in, but like we were shooting the film, one of our investors fell out during production, and we had a union intervention and we almost got shut down. And Todd actually came in with a very meaningful piece at that moment to help us be able to finish the shoot. And you think like, oh my God, how is this happening? And then you talk to other independent producers and they're like, oh, welcome to the party, you know? And these are the things that people don't share when they're getting their awards or talking. It's like, this is where you learn, you know, this is like the juicy stuff. And so it's been a fight, and you call on that like warrior spirit when it's a story that you have to tell. I'm not a filmmaker just to make movies. Like I'm advocating for a message. I'm advocating for a legacy. And it's also very meta because Pickford was an advocate for artists' rights and also for provoking content. And so we're like carrying on the torch of like, all right, we got this. Right, Nitsa?
No, it's true. It's true. It was, I completely join Jen when she says, you know, it's really the core people you choose to surround yourself with that is essential. Because I can tell you that, you know, every single day on the shoot, we did not know, and it was really stressful, if we would, you know, go to the finish line, because we actually encountered, yes, the union and financier dropping out. So it was really, really scary. And for some reason, you know, there was something magical that really happened. And I think it's really the energy of people being together and saying, you know, we're just gonna make it. And it's really it's the right partners, like she said. And I think that's really important, because we were fearing every day that something would, you know, make us stop. But at the same time, we believed, you know, and there's a big amount of faith. And for me, it's just like Jen, there's nothing that interests me if it's not carrying a strong message, because yes, it takes 5 years, 6 years, sometimes more, like, just to make a film. So you want, I mean, at least I do, it's important for me that I feel like, you know, it's bringing some meaning, and you want to, you know, celebrate certain values or celebrate a person that people forgot about, but she was very meaningful at a very core moment. And so I think, yeah, it's been a very interesting road, and really thanks to Alexander and Todd, and thank you and other people also that joined later. We made it. But it's true that on set, when we had an investor fallout, we had people visiting the set every day, saying that they were interested, wanting to put money, but people are just curious. They just show up on set just because it's so cool to be on set and see actors and see how people make films, but they were really, really shallow and not real. And it was, you know, for me, coming from France and shooting in Hollywood, a film about Hollywood, was like, wow, it was like a dream come true. And at the same time, it was really stressful, but very exciting. And also the whole team on the set, the DP, the costume, the set designer, the actors, everyone was very, very proud to be part of that story. So even though we had, yes, a union issue and they show up and they frighten people, etc., no one was going to, walk away ever. So it was, and I think it was a very strong moment. I never had to live that ever before. And since then, after. So it was a very unique experience. And I agree with Jen, there was something about, as if it was like it was very strange because it was as if it was a parallel or correlated to the real story. We have a story with making also our film. It's a story, and we have a making of, but so much happened. It's a story by itself. That shoot is a story by itself. The making of the film, and we're not done. So, it's a long process. So you'd better be surrounded with the right people, with the right energy, with the same goal, with the same vision.
Yeah, and
Can you
that's
talk a little bit about that, Jennifer, the union issue you had.
Yeah, I will. And then I want to touch on what Nitsa just closed with too, in terms of the people and the pieces. But with the union, they just, they have a job to do essentially. And our line producer that we had in pre-production suggested that we go non-union. Mm-hmm. And I was coming from a non-union background. I'd worked on union projects as a production coordinator when I was coming up through production. But as a director and producer, I had only done non-union at this point. And so my instinct, even though I wasn't completely specialized in this, was to just start off union. If we're going to work with union crew, why not just start off union? Why even risk encountering an issue? And I was basically told, I'm no longer the producer. I need to go focus on directing, because at that point we were in pre-production. I did have actors rehearsing. I did write the script. And I, when you kind of know all these different sides, it was like I raised the money, I developed the thing, I've worked in production for a decade, I was a production coordinator. You realize that's a rare thing with directors. A lot of directors did not come up through production. A lot of directors don't raise money. And so they wouldn't even try to participate in these conversations. And I was always meddling in different, areas because I could, and I felt protective of my investors and just like everything. But I was needed as a director. And so he said, let me do my job. Okay, cool. So he decided we should be non-union because we had a shorter shoot. We were shooting in one location. The whole crew agreed to go non-union. And you basically just put money aside. So if the union comes to flip you, you negotiate, you have a contingency, and you do the contract with them and move on. Well, that same line producer is the one that alerted the union that our production was actually happening, because he ended up not working on set. He took a bigger studio job that was more money, which is fine. People do that. We replaced him, no big deal. But he did something, let's just say, against union rules when he walked off that job, that would put more money in his pocket or whatever. And so in order to protect himself, he decided to let them know about us. And so they appeared, and the investor had fallen out. So we didn't have that contingency. And that was challenging. I mean, that was when we were scrambling. That's when we called on Todd. That's when we really were like, okay, how do we do this? And I established a good relationship with the union. I actually became friends with the rep and had to work with them for 2 years on an audit, and we passed it. And I was like celebrating, and everything, was good. I mean, they did show up on set in black leather jackets and they're not allowed on private property. So they had to like sneak around security and like finagle their way in as family and friends of cast and crew and like come and show up and demand things like within an hour, right, Nitsa?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
They gave us literally 2 or 3 days to find the money that we negotiated, and we had only that. So they were every day, and the last day was literally the watch, and they were like, by 1:30 we're closing down your set.
But they can't actually do that. That's the thing. So they say that to, I think, intimidate filmmakers, which is really where you start to like question their role, because they're there to protect the crew and they can't really shut down your set. The crew has to be willing or interested in walking off the set, which is usually due to like poor working conditions. Our crew was not interested in walking. They ignored the reps, continued working, went to lunch. So they couldn't really shut down our set, which was so frustrating to them. And we worked it out with them, and in the end it was fine. But then they like appeared again to like start to try to address our post-production and like who's editing the film and why are you working in Canada and like what's going on. And you just start to wonder, like, are you working with us as independent filmmakers? Like, are we working together? Like, I get the first part, like we could have gone union from the beginning. I get that part. But then you get through these different stages of it and you're just kind of like wondering, is this a force to be reckoned with? Like, what are we doing here? You know, because I'm pretty diplomatic. Like, I get people have to do their job and stuff. So that was just interesting learning curve, and not about anyone personally. The reps were cool, like it was fine, but the whole sort of mission of that organization was something a little bit confusing to me by the later stages of that process. You know, I hope I don't know if I shared too much, but they love you, you know.
Thank you for sharing, because that's what we're really trying to do here, is create this space where what is happening behind the scenes that never gets discussed gets discussed, because that information is so valuable to another filmmaker out there that's independent, that's just getting into their journey and trying to create this piece of art. So what would you say you learned out of that experience, and had you do it over again, would you go union from the beginning?
I would have gone union from the beginning. Yeah, definitely.
We hesitated, actually.
Oh, sorry?
Oh, we did it. I mean, we did consider it, but
yeah, if I was the decision maker in that, I would have, but I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it. You know, having a contingency and taking the risk is also fine if that feels right to you. We just happen to be in a sticky situation because of an investor scenario. So yeah, just everything you can do to be proactive in the process is, like, I would say the best to just like mitigate. You know, there's always going to be challenges and fires and issues with film and independence and stuff. And they have those issues even with studio films, you know, it's just a part of the nature of the beast in a way. They just have massive legal teams that deal with it. It's not like the director walking up to the union rep like, okay, yeah. You know, all the producers like, what? I'm creative. Like, I don't know. And they're like all like, you know, it's like, okay, we got this. So you just disarm them by saying, do you know who Mary Pickford is? Like, you wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for her. And one of the guys was like, oh, I think I bought something from her estate. This is about Mary Pickford. And it's like, yeah. But what I wanted to speak to, sort of riffing off of Nitsa's closing sentiment too, was with Adrienne, because it just keeps jumping out at me. Like, Adrienne, I mean, with the casting, it's like, that is what brings also value to the package. Like, not just, it's financial, but it's more than that, because these actors really embodied the aura of the characters. And like, in the end, when it's time for the release and distribution and stuff, I mean, that's the thing that really speaks to the distributor, right? Is these performances. And we didn't dumb down the casting in order to try to hustle more money. Like, we really cast appropriately for the roles. And Adrienne can speak more to this, but as a champion for the project, she also raised money for the project. So she was casting the film and working with us on the producer side here and there. And like, that relationship has been really vital too. So I would love to hear, I would love to hear Adrienne.
Oh, all right, thank you. Well, first off, I just want to say that from the very get-go, from meeting Jennifer and her producing partner, she was very collaborative, very much. You became a part of her family. And so let me tell you a little backstory. I did not know Jennifer at all, never heard of her, never heard of her film, Billy Bath. What I saw.
Billy Bates.
Billy Bates. I always call it the wrong name because it's a similar film. All right. So here's how I got involved. I actually was teaching a class, and an actor was in the class, and he announced to the class, "Oh, a film of mine that I'm in is premiering at the Soho International Film Festival. If anybody wants to go, let me know." So I'm sitting in a class of 25 actors, you know, for half a day, and I'm saying to myself, "Well, I would like to go, but I'm not going to raise my hand or say I'm going, because then everybody is going to want to go." And I was just like, you know, it would be also, okay, so she didn't have plans on a Friday night. Isn't she cooler than that? But that said, so later in the day, I actually got an email from this actor, and he said, you know, "You didn't say anything. Do you want to go?" And I said, "Sure, I'll go." So I think it was like a raining, pouring night, and I went down there to see the premiere. And again, I didn't know anybody who was involved in the film. I'd never met anybody in the film before, except for the actor that had taken my class. And then there was a party afterwards, and I remember it was a long ways from the theater, and we all kind of hiked there. And there were other people I knew that had been at the premiere. And I met Jennifer and her producing partner, and they literally were like, "Oh, well, we're making another film, and we want to have lunch with you." So the next day, I'm literally at a lunch with them on a rooftop, and they're like, "Okay, you're casting our film." So it was really, you know, fortuitous that I had been in that class, had said yes, because if I had never said yes to going to see that film at the film festival, then I would have never been here where I am today. So saying yes is something I believe in, and I think that a lot of people have to take chances in the film industry, and when something comes your way, it may not be 100% where you want it to be or what it should be or could be, but if you don't say yes, you're never going to find out, and you don't want to have a regret that you turned down a project that could be, you know, lead you in a direction. And so anyway, I said yes. So here I am now, and the truth is that Jennifer is 100% correct. First off, the film and the script took on a life of its own. The agents and managers in the industry were very eager and interested in having their talent be a part of this film. But instead of us having, you know, this actor that's a huge name or that, we were more about who is right for the part, because that's what's going to bring a story like this to life. It's not about watching a film and saying, "Gee, it's great to see so-and-so in a film," but I don't really think they felt like they were this person, because I've seen this person in their earlier career, and this is a biopic at the end of the day. So I think we stood very true to our sort of vision of the biopic. And if I recall, we had a lot of people self-tape. We had Jennifer meet with a lot of actors. We had some auditions. But on top of that, I became a part of the family. And there was a lot of get-togethers and organized parties and just a whole movement of pushing this film forward in ways that other filmmakers don't always do. I think it was sort of it was very social, would be a good way to say it. And I got to know the costume designer, which I brought him on another film I was working on. Since this film, I worked on another film with Jennifer. Nitsa and I also know each other from back when Nitsa was here in New York, and we've spent time together both here in New York and in Paris. So, you know, it's one big family. Every time I turn around, I meet somebody new who's been involved with the film. As far as the financing is concerned, here's what I'll say about the financing. I'm always out there looking for financing, because I'm on many, many films. And so when somebody comes my way and says, what are you working on? What can you pitch me? I'm always ready to pitch a couple of films. I happened to pitch somebody who was looking to put some money into a film, and, you know, I pitched them and made some introductions. And I honestly think that the relationship and the path took a good 6 to 8 months before the money came through. And it wasn't even something that I kept on top of. It was just one of those things that just magically happened overnight. And then all of a sudden we had this very nice sum that got added to our golden pot of putting this film out there. And, you know, I felt very good about, you know, not only my relationship with the film itself, with Jennifer and the rest of the team, excited about the talent that I brought to it, but, you know, here I added this next level, which, you know, everybody benefited from in various ways. So for me, that was an exciting part. And so, yes, I do come aboard to raise financing for film, but I will say something for those people who are looking for financing. I will only do it on films I'm already currently the casting director on, just because I'm invested in that film already, and that's what I believe in. So, you know, for me as a casting director, I like to wear the casting director hat. And I'm happy to work on a film that's completely financed, but I'm also very eager to get on board with a film that needs cast in place to move forward with the financing, or, you know, to get involved in adding some pieces of the puzzle. So I hope I answered some of your question, and if there's anything else I left out, I'm happy to share.
That was great.
And I'd like to jump on just one thing that you said. It's true that in the industry, of course, everyone knows that there is, yes, the pressure of actors that are bankable, etc. And we did feel it. We had to deal with it. But what was interesting is, as Adrienne said, it was really a very strong choice, and especially coming from Jennifer, who exactly knew also what she wanted, and Adrienne understanding exactly what she wanted was the actors suggested, and the actors she met and who ended up in the film are really, you know, the essence of what is in the script. And the script is already one piece that is a very original one. It's unconventional. So we were not going to make a conventional film. And that also means to bring, you know, talent that is very specific and not fall into a classical, conventional recipe. It was a challenge, but that was a real choice. And I think it's true that the work that the two did, Adrienne and Jennifer together, and with us, of course, but mainly them, it was really, really powerful. And I was amazed on set, and after also, of course, but, you know, every single person involved was extremely well chosen and very, how do you say that? Engaged, very convinced that they had to be there, you know, and they had they were part of a bigger puzzle. So that's why, that's what I mean. So every single piece of the puzzle, whether it's creative or finance or, you know, a creative on the production side or on the directing side, it's every single piece is needed. And so when it happens, it's really magical. And we actually had some magical moments on set after. And even in the endeavors, it is part of the magic, you know.
The challenges,
Yeah, the challenges. So.
From an outside observer, I can feel the chemistry. It's almost like there is mystical, magical energy between you guys, even now palpable, like it's a channeling almost. And so how did you, Jennifer, find everybody? How did you all get connected?
So it is magic. I mean, I think, wow, it's incredible. Alex and I met through Alex's son, right, Alex? I mean, that was actually our portal.
It was two connections. One was through Gabriel, and the other one was through our son Calvin. My son Calvin, yeah.
And Calvin's a filmmaker. He's a Steadicam operator.
Yep, working in New York. But back then he was still a film school student, or rather photography art student at NYU, and was interning for you guys.
He was interning for us, and that's right. A friend named Gabe, who was friends of a former intern who became a really close friend of mine, even now. Gabe introduced us to the Falks, to the family, but mainly with, I don't know if the focus was on Calvin or Alex, but it was all very exciting because it was potential investment, and it was also an intern. We are always looking to mentor. And I think that's really a big part of our model. We've brought different young people on in different capacities, because I started as an intern and started working on sets when I was 19, and didn't feel like I really had mentorship. So it's a really, really important part of my model and philosophy. So yeah, we worked with Alex's son, and I think Alex was around when I did the off-Broadway play with the actor from my last film, and also Julia Stiles.
Yep.
My film Billy Bates, that Todd was a part of, premiered at Tribeca and was also like coming out. So he got to see us in action before he decided to be a part of our team, and we had meals and we became friends, and they started to feel like extended family. And Todd, we met at a party, right? We met at, so there's this band that's not together currently, and Denise might know them. They're called The Little Death. And it's Laura Dawn, the singer, and Moby played bass, and Darren Murphy, and Aaron Brooks, one of my closest friends as well. And they did music for my first film, Billy Bates, actually. And we went to an after party of one of their shows and met Todd standing at the bar, I think, right?
It's how it goes so often, right? We just, like LA, New York, if you're in those cities, the energy, the going out, the enjoying the art, you network, you meet each other. That's so cool.
Well, and I think, and I'll continue with just the rest of them too, but the takeaway from all of that is what Nitsa said, and what I was also leading with earlier, which is that we're all getting involved. Like, we all have different perspectives in life. We all have different jobs, different ways of seeing the world. But when you have a friendship or you have a connection prior to doing business, I think, yeah, of course it doesn't always work, but I think with certain personalities and certain types, it really lends itself to the cohesiveness of the relationship, because they already knew me as an artist, as a filmmaker. They already knew kind of the way that I was operating. We trusted them too, you know, because this is my baby, and I want someone to come in and support as like a sort of doula, you know, like someone who's not just putting in money, but that's like got our backs, you know. And so you're creating partnerships along the way, and you feel that intuitively, you know. With Adrienne, like she said, she came to this premiere. We already knew of her as a casting director. We already knew what her credits were. And Jimmy was my lead actor in Billy Bates, the one who took her class. And he'd been like a muse of mine for like a decade. We'd done several things together. And he loved Adrienne, and I trusted him, and I already knew her credits. And she was such a New York casting director, really indie, and like did so many cool projects. And so she was right. Like, as soon as we saw her come to our premiere, we scooped her up. We're like, yes, lunch tomorrow. All right, let's like start this journey. And Nitsa and I mean, we've been friends now for like 15 years. We met through a mutual super, super, super close friend that I think hired me as a PA when I was like 19 or 20. she's still a close friend. They're doing a project together. Her name's Irina. And Nitsa and I had some Cannes Film Festival fun together, raised money on a couple projects together, also had built a relationship. And then it was just very organic. She fell in love with the script. She's a great producer, hadn't done something in the States. And so we were excited for that. And then Martine was so interesting because she's I think of this group, with the exception of Celio, which I'll also share because I met him at a dinner for the Art of Elysium, which is a very prolific arts organization here in LA that a lot of, celebrities and high profile people contribute to various causes. And I met him and his wife, Lynna, at a dinner, saw some of his drawings, fell in love with his work. Our movie was about to have its first screening as a tribute to Mary Pickford for 1,000 people. I asked him to do a portrait of Pickford and to be a part of the artist panel that was afterwards. So that was also just so organic. And now we're, family. That's, Adrienne said the perfect word. We are family. Martine came to a private screening that was a super rough cut of the movie. It was on the birthday of United Artists, 100-year birthday. First time I was showing the film to pretty much anyone, February 2019. And we felt like we were missing, we had a hole in our producer team as lead producers in the day-to-day, because we were all such creatives. We really needed someone business-minded to come in and help us clean up our 8 years of paperwork, and who understands distribution and fresh energy as well. I felt like I was wearing too many hats and honestly getting a little burnt out, still needing to finish the film as a director. So Martine, you can share too, like what spoke to you that night. And
Yeah, so I was invited to that project by one of the actresses who I was friend with, Katerina Baron, who invited me to that incredible screening in a museum, right? In the Hollywood Museum or something.
Hollywood Heritage, yeah.
Exactly. And I went there and saw that film. I was very interested because I work with I'm French originally. I didn't know there was a French person, Nitsa, involved in the project at all. I knew nothing about the project. All I knew it was a film about Mary Pickford, but I had just finished co-producing a documentary about her husband, Douglas Fairbanks. So contrary to a lot of people, I knew a lot about her, and I knew a little bit about that era. And I was very interested in seeing a narrative film about her. So I went to the screening and I just fell in love with the film first. I just was drawn into it. I felt I was there with the actors. I thought the acting was impeccable. And Adrienne, I don't know you personally, but you did an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
I think the acting was incredible. I thought, you talk in film, you talk about, an artist having a voice. There was a definite voice behind this film. And I didn't know Jennifer. And I really was drawn to the film. I'm, as I was saying, I'm more of a business producer, but I love artists. And I love to surround myself with incredible artists. So when I produce a film, I usually, I'm the business side, but I try not to get involved with the creative. And I try to say, if I picked you as an artist, I'm going to let you bring your point of view, because that's the point. If it's my point of view, then I might as well direct the film, right? So I'm very artist friendly as a producer. And I really felt like there was an incredible team behind this film, and I was totally drawn into it. So I asked Katerina after the screening to introduce me to Jennifer, and we spoke a little bit, and I told her about my Douglas Fairbanks doc that I had just finished, and so we talked, and then we had a couple of more meetings, and I said, if you want, I can come and help you guys. I had just finished distributing my first 2 films, narrative films, so they were already doing well and everything. So that's what happened, and I became, as everyone is saying here, part of the family. When she told me there's also a French producer involved, and I'm French originally, been in the States for 20 years, and Nitsa was coming a few weeks later to LA. So we all met, and then they accepted me into the team, and it's been an amazing journey. I'm very glad I met everybody. This was incredible. And last year we all went to Venice together, which like even, forged another bond when we showed the film at the Biennale. And it's just an incredible journey. They're incredible people. Jennifer is such a force and she's just an incredible woman. I love to surround myself with artists, but especially incredible women like Jen and Nitsa. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm in it.
So, Martine, for those people that don't really have any experience in what goes on to producing a film and what the business side of it looks like, could you explain a little bit the day-to-day of your tasks?
So it depends. Every producer, does different things. I think that I'm a producer. Usually this is like a kind of a special project because I came in, towards the end, but I usually take a project from A to Z, which is that I don't write, of course. I'm not a creative. So I find a great script or someone comes to me with a great story, and you then, try to put the package together, basically. So you make sure that you have a great script. So you might go through a few rewrites. Then you try, raise a little bit of money for development. Then go through the casting process and try to attach cast. And I think there needs to be a balance of, it has to be the right cast, which is so important. But me being a business producer, and in the end, that film is a product you need to sell. You need to make sure that that cast also has some value commercially. I think that there needs to be that type of balance in between, and I think it's completely feasible. And I think in this film, we do have that completely. And they did not compromise to take those huge stars. And I completely agree with what they were saying about, sometimes when you see someone, like, you already have a preconceived idea and you can't put them into the role of someone else. So if and in this case, it was just amazing because everybody, when you see the film, you feel like you're in there with them. And this is Mary Pickford, and this is Charlie Chaplin, and Scott Hayes did an amazing job, and this is Douglas Fairbanks, and you're really in there with them. So the casting is an essential part of the process. And then you usually hire a line producer, a good one, if possible, that is gonna put together a budget schedule for the film. And depends on the budget. You might, on one of my films, I did that myself because the budget was so low. Depends on what you do. You also, sometimes want to consult with a sales agent early to know, where you're going in terms of sales. And then you go and shoot your film. And every day you need a lot of paperwork. You need to be really organized. I think that's one of the key of the business producer is really be organized and have a good relationship with your investors. I have a good relationship with, the other producers, the director, your first AD, who's kind of the chief of the set, and make sure everything moves in the right direction and at the right pace. And then once you're done with your film, then you have the whole post-production process, which is another big endeavor. You either hire or not a post-producer or post-production supervisor to finish the film, which is color, sound, titles, and stuff like that, VFX. And that process can be super long. Like I produced a sci-fi thriller that it took us 1 year to post-produce, or a year and a half, because we had so much VFX. And then you go on the path of distributing it and trying to figure out, who's the right company who's going to get the film, get the vision, and be able to reach the right audience and be able to really put, all the efforts that you have done. And in Jen and Nitsa's case, so many years, you don't want to just give it to anybody. It's your baby. It's your, like Jen was saying, you forget the pain. It's like when you have a baby, you see the baby, you're so happy, but you forgot, you know, how hard it was sometimes. So it's good to remind yourself how difficult it was, because you don't want to give it up easily to just any distribution company. That distribution company needs to be aligned with your vision for the film and where it's going to go and who it's, you know, who it's going to speak to. And this is very, very important because they are the one to put your film into the world. So I think this is the vital part where maybe that's one of the very, very, I would say financing it and distributing are the two most difficult parts for me.
And I would say that, like, that's in terms of Martine's day-to-day on our film. It's a lot of like vetting sales agents, vetting distributors, looking at old paperwork, making sure contracts are like amended and up to date, because sometimes you switch LLCs, you switch entities, and you have to make assignments and stuff because, you know, things shift throughout the course of making something. So there's a lot of catch up. And just, you know, production legal and union stuff. And, you know, it's a lot, because when you get distribution, you have to basically hand them a binder of everything. And in old school terms, it's a binder. I guess it's probably not a binder anymore.
No, it's a Google Drive.
Like when I was a production coordinator, it's like these big fat binders, you know, with every memo, every contract, everything printed out, you know.
And I had personally delivered my 2 films to my distributors. So that's why I knew all the legalities of what's needed for distribution. So I wanted to make sure, you know, in this film, and it's difficult because it's a film that took place over so many years.
And it's a real person. So you're dealing with like archival stuff and like
so many people involved and everything. So it's a daunting project, but it's an amazing project because I'm working with amazing people. And I love it.
And I mean, to add to that, you know, we're being presented with other opportunities at this time too, taking the content, turning it into a Broadway play or to an actual mini series, utilizing our footage for like an HBO kind of scenario. You kind of look at something where you spend 8 years and people are like, oh my God, you spent that long. And then you there's a flip side to that where you become, you know, a sort of historian now. Now it's like you're the Mary Pickford person and you have 8 years of research and all these relationships and all this content, you know, including our footage. And then people are like, oh, wow, we could really spin that off into this or into that, or, you know, so you kind of acquire assets along the way, which of course, Alex would have thought of assets. I didn't know I was acquiring assets. I was just doing my job and loving it, like learning every nook and cranny of Pickford that I possibly could. And it's true. I got to know her really, really, really well, and have a lot of personal materials that aren't in libraries and things, you know? So there might be other layers to this. Like, who knows, you know?
That's exciting. A little teaser right there.
Yeah.
So what is next for the film? Where are you guys at? It's not released yet. So what's next?
We're working on distribution now. The film does need some finishing touches to the actual picture, but that can come like with the distributor. It's not stuff we have to do urgently, but it would happen before a release. Because of the lockdown, we actually cut the movie into webisodes just to see what that was like. Some people were saying we're never going to go back to theatrical, and all these big studios are starting these like web series platforms, and it's the way of the future and all this stuff. And I never thought like that. But I was like, you know, let's just see how it works. Like, I'm just curious. So that was just an experiment that we did. And actually it works really well because we shot the film as vignettes. So there's these natural breaking points in terms of webisodes, but we didn't release them. Again, they're kind of an asset that we have. There's 16 webisodes. We shared a couple of them as sort of teasers for the film, but that's really it.
But we'll see, because what we realized along the way is that the film, you can, distributors or other sort of platforms buy it as a feature and as a web series. So you can actually
doing that now.
do both.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And actually right now, that's what is happening. We'll see what happens because there's no clear choice. But it's true, we did that as an experiment to see if the buzz would catch up also on the first episode, which it did, and it was really interesting to see the people reacted and wanted to see more, etc. So it's like you say, it's a few assets and the opportunity of making it a series for a big network would also be very interesting. We're exploring those, but they are not exclusive. They are all, maybe
part of it. Yeah. And with the, if anyone who's watching does want to see the actual webisodes in HD high res fashion, they're on the Humanizing the Icon YouTube channel. And there's 3 of them that we have allowed public. And you can put it on the HD setting and see it really beautifully. Yeah.
Maybe we can edit this recording after before we post it and put that correct.
Sure.
We'll put it correct.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For this.
Sure. Yeah.
What I wanted to share also that I thought was very interesting in the experience that we had is that, the movie ended up not being exactly what the script was, because the circumstances of what we had to go through made us make artistic, even more radical choice in the end. And I think whether it was, meant to be or not, it's interesting sometimes because you will have obstacles, etc., but that actually make you more concise, precise, creative, because you have to find a way, and it pushes the border. Is that what you say? It pushes the
boundaries,
boundaries into exploring other things. And I think we had actually initially a little section that is, the person reflecting on her life, and we decided to get rid of that.
An older Mary Pickford, an older version.
And that happened because of what happened during the shoot, because of the financial falling out, because of that. But then it made complete sense artistically. We thought about that but it just made complete sense to go that way. And so sometimes, what you go through, like in life, make you take turns or make choices that are, make more sense, in fact. So it was
right.
Also,
well, I just from a casting perspective, when I came aboard, somebody else was already cast in the role of Mary Pickford, and obviously it wasn't meant to be, and we were meant to go out there and find the right person for the role who was meant to be. And I think that it lent itself, that door opened for us, and so I think we got very fortunate. And I agree with you as far as the scene at the end that you're talking about where we meet them older. It was a big cast, a big undertaking. I just don't know that there was enough time and money in the day that we were able to add that in. But I think as a filmmaker, Jennifer, you probably learned that maybe you don't even need that scene.
Yeah, no.
Right. And that's what I think a lot of filmmakers learn when they're going out to make a film, that they put a lot in there. Think of it like a candy bag, and you put a lot of candy in it, but you don't really need all that candy. Mm-hmm. And I think if there's anything I've learned now from working with filmmakers currently, is that we're going to have smaller casts anyway. So it's really a lesson to be learned in the future for you, just as you move forward, or any of us with new scripts and new product out there, that, our casts just might not be able to be that large or have large scenes with so many, actors on them. So it's something to think about anyway.
Yeah. And I really, that thread that they're talking about was Mary Pickford as an older woman looking back on her life. And it was less about the financing in terms of why we didn't shoot it. We were actually in talks with an actress to play the older Mary. And we decided that we would schedule that for a later date after the core of the shoot was done. We would come back in about 2 or 3 months and shoot the older Mary. But she was taking a long time making a decision, and we didn't know if it was going to work, just going off what Nitsa had said. And And it was the financing, it was all of it. But then I'm looking through the footage after we wrapped the shoot, and it was like such a beautiful coming of age story. And I was really genuinely not wanting an older Mary.
Yeah.
That kind of conventional thing we see all the time of her. I mean, we were doing it in an interesting way, but still, it felt like something was being cheapened a little bit to sort of like cut to these recognizable Hollywood faces that are incredible talent. But these were the pioneers of cinema, and we did the movie avant-garde in order to honor the spirit of that. And they were fresh faces and young talent and new to the scene, and everything was new. And so we decided that was the integrity, and we just said, never mind. It was really cool, actually.
So just kind of wrapping up here, you're a first-time director, even though you've had a lot of experience in the industry.
Second time.
No?
This is my second feature as a director.
Okay. So what was your biggest takeaway, like for someone just starting in their journey or someone that's semi-new to the industry? Like, is there any piece of wisdom that you'd like to relay?
I don't feel equipped to give advice in the sense that every project is so customized in terms of like how it gets done. I just think that story is number one. You know, why are you telling this story? Doesn't need to be told. You know, and then being true to that vision, you know, and not being willing to really compromise. Compromise comes in other forms that are necessary, but I mean, when it comes to the vision, I think that it needs to be honored, and filmmakers coming up should be encouraged to use their intuition and stick to their vision. I say that word a lot because there's a lot of fear that if I don't give into this or give into that, it will never get made. And then you end up with a lot of really insecure people that sort of diminish their like true artistry and get really frustrated. And it's okay for things to take time. You know, there's always, it's about the journey. It's about the process, you know, not just the results. And I think you end up being more rewarded, not just as a human, but even financially. I think there is a meeting of art and commerce when you stay true to vision and you understand the social zeitgeist and you trust the timing of things and you keep your eye on who the players are and you know what's going on holistically and don't get caught up in fear. Art and commerce can meet, and we need that because we need original content. We need bold content. It contributes to the evolution of our brain, literally. Like we need content that elevates. And I want to support storytellers, like real storytellers, you know. So
I couldn't think of a better, more relevant time for this story to be told with everything that's going on. So it seems just part of the magic that the timing of when this is to that point where it's about to be distributed and released is in the midst of Me Too and all the social change that's going on. And it's extremely powerful story to be told right now. So
it would have been so different a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We could have rushed to have it done, but the timing wouldn't have been as good.
Right.
I mean, that's a great question for Alex too, who's been on board for so long. Is it frustrating how long it's taking?
No, I think when you invest in either in startup companies or in early stage financing or in movie, you have to have a long-term investment horizon of 10 years. Mm-hmm. There's no time in putting pressure on the creative process. There's no point in trying to rush it.
Find your people.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's the same with any entrepreneurial journey in general. It's you are putting everything you have in up front, and you really have to go in expecting that you're not going to see that return for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
It's just the process, right? And then I think another important part that Jennifer touched on that we had talked about, Alexander, is the mentorship part. Is like how important it is to have mentors around you that are in front of you that can kind of help you along the way, both whether you're learning as an entrepreneur to start a company or you're creating a film, which is an entrepreneurial venture as well.
Absolutely. It was very important in my early career. When I started my software company with my business partners in 1992, we had some really good and strong mentors that helped us avoid a couple of costly early mistakes. And it also took us, at least 9-10 years before the business really started taking leaps and bounds and becoming nicely profitable. It was profitable from the get-go, but there was also years, the early 3 or 4 years, where we couldn't pay ourselves a salary. That's just life as an entrepreneur. We gotta believe in your passion, believe in your mission and your vision, and go through with it.
I love it.
And Denise, though, like we met a year ago.
Yes.
How was that experience for you? Because you were at that first big screening that we had.
Yes. I think it was all part of the synergy as well, because somebody had brought me to that film who was in the film.
Angela.
No, it wasn't Angela that brought me. It was Katrina.
Oh, Katerina. Yeah.
Yeah. And
like me. So she brought you too.
What'd you say?
Her to the Ace Hotel one. Yeah, the big one.
She brought me to the Ace Hotel, and then I didn't know that Angela was in it. It turned out that Angela McCluskey was in it, and Matt Smiley was in it, and they're both very good friends of mine too. So I was like, wow, I have so many people I know in this film. And then, you know, my background, I'm very much a businesswoman, but I've been in the creative world for many years. I started my career at the Cleveland Museum of Art, which is the 4th best art museum in the world, and right next to Cleveland Institute of Art, where I learned about film and was watching, you know, art films there. And so I hadn't seen a good art film in forever. It's very hard to find because they're hard to make. And I was so impressed that it does an amazing job of telling an incredible story that is difficult to tell, because Mary Pickford was born in 1892. So it's a timepiece as well. And then you had the extra layer of not just biopic, but there is definitely a filter of this is an art piece over it. And so I just felt attached to it right away and wanted to get to know you. And then now we're here.
Here we are. Yeah.
So I just launched House of Fame, a new entrepreneurial journey for me. And it's a learning venture, and, you know, right alongside of yours. You're a lot further than me in your process, but I'm so just honored to have you and the whole panel here today. It has been incredible for me to learn your story. You're all very good storytellers, and it's such valuable information to get out to people that are trying to make their own forms of art in film, in whatever genre. So thank you for being part of that conversation.
And we actually have a couple students that are ambassadors too, that are on right now, and they're gonna they're recording and they're gonna cut content from this, and they, I think, just graduated high school in San Francisco. So
I just love that you're integrating that into your process, where there's people just starting out that are getting to learn experientially. It's so valuable.
Yeah, thank you so much. Do you want any closing words from anyone, or before Celio shares?
Yeah, if anybody has any closing words, definitely. And then I can't wait to see the art that's coming out of this talk today.
Todd, do you have any closing words?
No, nothing epic or clever or anything like that.
All right, let me check the chat. Was there any questions that anybody in the audience had? Let me see if there's any questions here. Anybody?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a
Any
question.
questions coming up? Okay. So great. Well, then let's see what we have. Celio, Jennifer, do you want to introduce his piece?
No, Celio should introduce
Okay.
this piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then thank you, everybody, because talk about Mary Pickford, Mary Pickford coming. Oh, yes. And then I prepare 4 amazing color with 4 fountain pen, but only sepia color working.
Whoa.
And I think the energy about everybody is about the acting, about Mary Pickford in the life, because uh, we have to act every day in the life. In the 20s, 1 century ago, the Pickford time, she do a lot of acting, but in the mind have free space for put all personal things. But she worked with a lot of many artists, and then we saw a different expression from 20s, head from 20s. I
Wow.
think this is her. I don't see very well.
That's beautiful.
Just a second. I don't see. Okay.
Wow, Celio.
You see?
Yes.
This
You
is a
really well.
Mary.
Oh, neat.
This is a Mary. We have some acting. Is the people work with her like us,
Whoa.
like us today? We have a Charlie. Ciao,
There's Charlie. Oh my God.
Ciao, Charlie. It's coming. Some older people can maybe is acting in the movie. I think
Very cool.
so. This is I saw one time the mother of Mary. Is a very influence of her, and I think she say about something. We have some persons. Oh, look at this.
Wow.
This, I think so, is an actor can work with her in the 20s. Or we have something at 20s, and some believe in religions, but in the dark, like I believe in Jesus, maybe not, but I believe more in myself.
Wow.
And I think today is nice because together focus on her, because her is the first star, is the first woman can decide, is the energy about woman in this world, or the respect about woman. And then in the acting live, and she appeared with the flowers, like delicate persons, like
Oh,
love the life, but she are everywhere. It's amazing. I'm surprised.
Wow.
I'm
It's really
surprised myself too.
It's really impressive what you did now and now.
Yeah.
And
The details. It's so incredible what you did, Celio.
it's also very interesting this how we all are actors in our own life, what he said, and he's bringing in the masculine and the feminine, the business side and the artist side, and we play different roles and wear different hats in our life, and how Pickford is really sort of a symbol of all these things is very cool.
Yes, very, very intense. But because it's the life of Mary Pickford. She gives us a very beautiful present, a freedom from woman, a freedom for creativity in different view, not male view or only on one direction, but she mix all these people. She decides this is very relaxed phase, but this is not the important. It's important what happened in this mind. And very important, because in the life have work, have business, but very important is have a personal life, a freedom life. And she coming with this beautiful person.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this is my read. This is my impression about WhatsApp, because I do very fast. I don't know WhatsApp, and then I only take the energy. And then the energy, it's Mary. Buongiorno, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also, it's 100-year cycle. You know, we're in the marker 100 years later. You know, she founded United Artists in 1919. So we're stepping into that sort of paradigm of all these different voices and people from all over the world, and diversity and storytelling. It's like, yeah, we're carrying that torch in this movie. It's called Why Not Choose Love, which is, as she said, it's the highest frequency for creativity is love, you know? So I love the Celios including all these faces and all these voices, because she really wanted to represent the people, you know, the artists, and it's very powerful.
Wow. It's my favorite.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. So real quick, if you want to put in the chat, or you want to just speak out how people can find you on social media, maybe we can just go through one by one. Alex, how can people find you on social media?
It's at Falk, AFALK, on most platforms except for Instagram. There's a dot between the A and my last name on Instagram. Perfect.
Nitsa, how about you?
It's Nitsa Benchetrit. No secret.
Okay. And Jennifer, how can people find you?
On Instagram, it's Jennifer.DeLia. And we have Humanizing the Icon on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And I'm on Facebook as well. So
great. Martine?
My Insta is Martine4Insta with a 4 number 4. I have a Facebook, Martine Melloul, Melloul, and I have a website for my company called Kali Pictures, Kali from the goddess Kali, destruction of the ego.
Todd, how can people find you?
Probably the best Instagram, T-Bird _LIC, stands for Long Island City. And I also have a music publishing website, doubletreblemusic.com.
Oh, TREBLE.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Celio, how can people find you?
Oh, yes. Then my Instagram is, in English is Celio _Bordin. In Italiano, Celio. Yeah, I prefer. And the website is celiobordin.com.
Great. And
Thank you.
Yes. And I'm Denise Kozlowski. The last name is Kozlowski. And you can also find us at houseoffame.us on most of the channels. Okay, I'm gonna leave everybody as we're exiting with a little bit of music from the film. Thanks, everybody.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your support. I love you all.